Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Grab your tea and get ready for Tea Talk, where the topics are real, relevant, and relaxing. It's Tea Talk time, and here's Lady O.
Thank you, Tracy. And hello, everybody. Welcome to Tea Talk Club. It's a wonderful, beautiful day. Kind of gray outside today, but I'm loving this weather because as we remember last year, this time we were cold and without electricity and water and heat. So we're just so happy today that this is a dreary day, but to me, the sun is shining. And so, welcome. We have a lot of wonderful things that we're going to talk about today. As you know, this is February, it's Black History Month. And we talk about loving people, having relationships with people that we love. And today we're going to talk about a very, very important topic. And it's going to be talking about loving our Black children. Are we loving them to death or loving them to life? Are we raising our boys the same way we raise our girls, or is there a difference? So be thinking about that and go ahead and get in the chat and let me know some of the answers to those questions. Did your mother raise you the same way she raised your brother? Or are you raising your son the same way you raised your daughter? Is there a difference and why? So start thinking about that. And you might know someone today who needs some help with parenting, as we all do. When I was younger, I needed help and I didn't even know I needed help. But guess what? I needed help. And so we started reading books. Dr. Spock was the book that we started reading, even though I didn't follow Dr. Spock very much because it was totally against how my mother raised me. And so the reality is, how do we learn to raise our children? And we learn to raise them from role models like our own mother or our aunties or people at the church. There's a whole bunch of people that helped us raise our children, right? The teachers. But today, the people at the church better not say anything to my child, right? At school, they better not try to tell my child what to do. And as a result, we have a community of children who are confused. That's what I said. I said, look here. When they start talking to me any kind of way, I tell them somebody's confused and it's not me, not moi. I'm not confused. You are, because I'm the adult and you're the child. Now, we have some ways that we used to raise children that we have to change, and I had to change too. I grew up in that time when you could spank the children at school. Mamas couldn't do anything about it, and it was expected. But nowadays, you can't even say some things to the kids, or else you might lose your job. Forget about what they're saying to you. So we've got a problem here that we need to talk about. So if you know somebody who needs a little help in raising their kids and need some little tidbits of good, wholesome, the advice is going to be based upon wisdom. We've been from the old school too far left, and we've been to the new school too far right. So you want to make sure that you are getting your kids on there, because we can say some things that you probably could never say. So what we're going to do, Shelley says, Houston, we have a problem. Yes, we do. America, we have a problem. When I look at some of the stuff that's going on these school campuses and with these kids, how they're talking to adults, and it's really so sad. You're even afraid to say anything to a child, even if they're about to hurt themselves, because I saw a little kid one time, he was running on this like banister thing and jumping off and jumping off. And really, I was afraid that he might hurt himself, bust his head open or something. But I dare not say anything, because parents get all offended. So we want to welcome all of you to the show. I see Linda Bell says, yes, ma'am. You have to be really careful about how you talk to people's kids, even when you're trying to help them. And Flair says, sometimes I have to catch myself. I know, Flair, because I have a flashback like, get out off there. Why are you on this thing? Where's your mama? We used to say, where is your mama? And she come running and apologize. Now they come around the corner. They may have a gun and want to kill you, right? So we want to make sure we're talking about this today, since we are in the month of Valentine. We're talking about loving. We need to know how to love our children to life and not love them to death. Because some of the things we're allowing them to do, they're going to end up in a bad way, could even end up in death. And we see that all the time too with people when you get stopped in a car, and sometimes the people where they're talking, surely it's wrong for them to be stopped. But I tell my boys and my girls, I want you to make it home that night safely. We can go back and take care of that. But if you get killed, we can't do anything about it. And it sets my life on a downward spiral for the rest of my life. So let's just get you home safely. Can you control your mouth so you don't talk back? And then sometimes they're going to hurt you if you talk back, but at least, maybe you'll get a chance to get home safely, and we can talk about that later. So what I want to do is go ahead and we have a special guest on today. But before we bring our special guest on, I want to bring our group on and ask them this question. And you can answer it in the chat as well. Did your mom and dad raise you differently from your brother or your sisters? Or did you do that for your children? So why don't we, Tea Talk Club's team, let's go ahead and come on. Shelly, why don't you go first? Tell us, did you see any difference growing up with raising the boys and the girls?
Yes, I did. I had 3 sisters and 1 brother, and I found that my mother was more lenient with my brother. He didn't have as many chores as we had. He did have
Ooh,
to take out the trash. His room was always a wreck. No matter how much they told him to clean it up, it just was
uh-huh.
always a wreck. But he was the only one of us that got a car in high school. But he did work for it, Lady O. He had a
Mhm.
job. He worked for it and paid for his own car. And like Tracy was saying earlier, he didn't have a curfew, whereas we did.
Mm.
And but I also noticed that my dad was harder on him than he was on us.
Okay, so there was a difference in the role that the mother and the father played too.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Okay,
yes, yes, yes. He was much tougher on my brother than he was on us.
right.
Because and I think it was because he was more hard headed than us. We
Mhm.
listened,
Right.
whereas he a lot of times didn't listen. He was stubborn, and
Mm.
so yeah, I think that accounted for it. And I think I did the same thing with my children. I was I don't feel that I was more lenient on my son, but he was more sensitive to correction than my daughters. So
Mhm.
the way that I corrected him was different. I still
Ooh.
corrected him, but the way I
Mhm.
did it was different.
Okay. Okay. So you just said a whole bunch of things right there that are really indicative of the fact that we were raised in the South. You
Mm,
don't talk to a boy like you talk to a girl. That's a man,
mhm.
you know.
Okay.
And then the chores that you had, the girls had to pretty much wash the dishes and do all the domestic stuff, where the guys were, and I've heard this in a lot of Southern homes, that the men don't wash dishes around here. Yes.
Mhm.
The woman
Yeah.
sets the table. The men eat before the women. So, And so the car, they automatically were going to have a car, whether they worked for it or not. They were going to have a car. So that's good. That's good. Okay, let's go on. Um, let's see, Deborah, what did you notice any difference in the way your brother and sister or your kids were raised?
My brother, I only had one child, it was a girl, but
Right.
growing up, my brothers, we all had the same curfew. We all had the same rules, and the boys washed dishes and I cleaned the house.
Okay.
So that was really, nobody was treated any different when it came to chores and curfews.
Now, why were you cleaning the house?
Because I didn't like washing dishes. So I volunteered to clean
You
the
traded
whole
off.
house.
You didn't wash dishes. You cleaned the house. That was a choice.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. So when discipline came, were y'all disciplined the same?
Everybody got the same. And you were saying that you didn't get the extension cord. We got the extension cord or whatever was close.
You
Yeah,
in the way back generation.
yes. I remember a time getting the curtain rod because
Oh
I
my
Ooh.
said
goodness.
something that I didn't know was wrong.
Oh.
Ooh.
That's
Your
what she
mama,
had in her hand. She
your
didn't
mama
play.
was something else.
She
She was
didn't play.
okay. And y'all all were raised up to be good kids. Nobody went to
Nobody's
jail.
been to jail.
Okay. All right. When I say that, because kind of like, I have to be careful how I say that. But honestly, I think a lot of kids did not go to jail back in the day because their mothers had put the fear of God in them, and they
Mhm.
just knew there were consequences, and the parental respect, that you respected authority. And I think nowadays, I wonder if the kids are going to jail because they don't respect authority from their mom in the house. The teacher can't tell them what to do. At the church, they can't tell them what to do. The people in the neighborhood can't tell them what to do. Can't nobody tell them what to do. So now they got to go to prison and learn from the prison warden guards to tell them what to do. As
Yeah.
the guy, you remember this? Forget the movie, but he made who was his name? Anyway, when he got out of prison, he asked. He was working at a grocery store, and he said, "Excuse me, may I go make water?" And the guy said, "What, man?" He said, "May I go make water?" And he said, in prison, we had to ask to go to the restroom. You just don't go walking off. He was in a free world. What is that man's name? He had all
It
those
was
notes.
Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah,
Morgan
yeah,
It
yeah,
Freeman.
yeah.
was Morgan Freeman. Yeah, Morgan
Marcus
Freeman.
Freeman, thank you.
Uh-huh.
And
Shawshank.
he had to ask, could
Shawshank.
he go make water? He said, I just can't make water without asking,
Yeah.
Mm.
because that's what he had been indoctrinated to. So you
Uh-huh.
don't learn it from your mom. Then when you go to prison, you have to ask to even go to the restroom. You just can't get up and go. Those freedoms you lose. Wow. Tracy, what about you?
Absolutely different. My
Mhm.
brother was didn't have the same chores. The girls did more of the domestic chores. My brother took out the trash.
Okay.
Even as far as grades, we were pushed a little bit harder to me.
Mhm.
My dad was probably, he gave us more and he was harder on him. We were daddy's girls, so he was very giving to us. But discipline wise, my brother probably caught it a little bit more than we did. But as far as the day to day things, we were expected to do more than my brother. He didn't have a curfew. We did. We did have cars. He didn't. He had to pay for his own car.
Wow. Well, let's see now. Oh, Flair, tell me about your growing up, or your children, or how you were raised with your siblings.
Well, I'm kind of far behind the older ones, but I think my dad might have been harder. I don't know. I think it might have been hard on my brother, but my mom was easy on him, I think, from what I saw. But with
Yeah.
mine, if my daughter tells you, she said, I let my son get away with a lot.
You to have her on here to tell the truth. You let
Yeah,
her get away with a lot.
he kind of, I kind of spoke to him differently because he had a demeanor that was different about him,
Yeah.
and I kind of was, I was hard on her, but she was a girl. So I figured I should have been hard on her.
Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? She was a
Because
girl.
I wanted her to know how to act out there. And I don't know. I just didn't think I need to be as hard on him as her.
Wow.
So he kind of, he had a car. He helped pay for his though. He didn't, I don't think he really had any chores to do around the house.
Right. Well,
She did.
most men down south, they didn't have chores like that.
Yeah.
They took the trash out.
Yeah.
As far as
I just
cleaning
think
up.
you had to be hard on the girl because so much was out there for a girl. You had to, teach her to take care of herself. And I just figured the boy would take care of themselves.
Ooh, you just said a mouthful.
So,
Because really and truly, that's the way we were raised. The women to take care of yourself. A couple of reasons. For number one, to watch out for people preying on you, whether it's men or whatever. And then also to be able to, in case he leaves you with all those
take
children,
care of yourself.
take care of yourself. And then we were also talked about how to treat a man in a way that you could get a man and keep a man. All the way from cooking his food and putting his food on the table and running his bath water and all this stuff. Anybody ever know anything about that? The man ate first for anybody?
No, we didn't do that. My mom and dad didn't do that. My mother didn't even fix my father's plate. I mean, we would all sit down to dinner at the same time with all the food on the table, and everybody would just serve themselves. So, no, I didn't experience that.
Oh, well, that's good. I'll never forget. I went to a friend of ours invited us to Mississippi, and I was pregnant, and so they were cooking all this food and gumbo and fried. It was a Gulfport, Mississippi, so they had all this fresh seafood. So we were the women in the kitchen cooking and setting the table and whatever. And so when we got through, I went and sat down at the table. They told me, "Oh no, the men have to eat first. The men have to." I said, "What?" The men eat first. We got to serve the men, and then after the men eat, then we can eat. I'm like, okay. But I'm hungry. You're pregnant woman. I went back to that kitchen. I stole some of that food. I was like, I gotta eat. What do you mean? But they literally, after the men got through eating, and they cleared, then the women came down and sat down and ate.
No,
and it
we didn't do that.
Natural plantation kind of style, because that was very much. I was in Mississippi, and so I guess they learned that from the way they were raised. Now I do remember that the women would always put the best chicken up for the men, and if you go to you get that back, chicken back. Not chicken. What do you call it? The breast, the chicken breast, that big old piece. It was smack your hand and say, "Put that back." Daddy ain't ate yet.
Oh, okay.
So daddy would get the bigger pieces and that kind of stuff. So I did know that about the men, but I thought it was because we were little and we didn't need that big. We were going to waste it or whatever. But they'd always let you. Who was that? Linda Bell said my dad was served first, but that changed because he worked later. So yeah, things change. I think a lot of it since when the women started, women started working outside of the home. Things change. But back in the day, it was almost like you were raised to be a domestic. How many of you remember the days when you were you had to take home economics as a female? Y'all know what home economics is?
Yes,
I took
we had home economics, but I didn't take it. We chose the electives we wanted to take. So I took typing and business. I didn't take home economics.
We could choose other electives, but we had to do that one because you had to learn how to cook and so prepare food for your family. So
Mm.
yeah, so and some of them, like I said, they were raised by grandparents, and so a lot of this was stuff we learned from our grandparents, which brings me back to our point for today. How do we get away from raising our children to be respectful? These were things that were also back there in the day when we were raised differently. I think the boys were raised differently because they wanted them to be a man and not be a wimp, to
Yeah.
be the strength,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
to run their house and how to run it. And a lot of them were taught wrong because the way you ran your house was not being mean to your spouse and your children. And truth be told, a lot of people, women were abused back then because they were
Mhm.
looked at as the maid and somebody raised the children and that kind of thing. And so I think that the women were chose to be submissive so you
Yes.
wouldn't make the man angry. So you didn't talk to him a certain way. So we grow up with our boys. We don't talk to our boys a certain way. So I think a lot of those things were the way we were raised long ago. But now it's gotten to where uh, people are not respectable. The children are not. They're not responsible. They expect for you to do everything for them. Not reliable. They don't work. They don't care about others. So I'm trying to figure out how did we get that change in there? Where did it come about? Does anybody know how do we move from there being so strict and so raising our boys a certain way and our girls a certain way? How do we get there?
I think a lot of what has changed over time has been TV and music, the
Mhm,
influence of television and music. Television depicts our men in a certain light, and
mhm.
we bought into it. And
That's
they
right.
have made our black men look weak and insignificant.
Mhm,
And now our children are being raised by the latest, greatest social media or reality shows, and that has
Mhm.
totally changed the shift of the home, how the house is being ran now, and how
right.
children respond to adults and everybody else around them.
Wow. You're so right about that. The music and the social media and the TV. I remember when we were growing up, the shows that we saw, of course, they were totally against black families. The black families were buffoons, and slow and lazy and, depicted in a very bad
Mhm.
way. Um, which that was the way we were raised to say this is what a black family is supposed to be like. And that might be too why the black boys were talked to and being so strict on because they wanted to make sure they didn't go around shuffling and go because the society was already making them shuffle and keep their head down and be subservient to white men and white women and so forth. So that might be why they did that. But then those shows that we did see about family, for me growing up, the first one I remember was Father Knows Best.
Mhm,
Donna Reed, y'all remember those
Mhm.
shows? And then we went into that to the Cosbys,
Mhm.
and now and JJ Evans in the project. So we've had different layers uncovered for what a family looks like. And in the meantime, our kids are being really um, they've been shaped by TV, radio, music, which has always been the case. And I think that even when my mom and they were growing up, they were being shaped by certain music that the parents didn't like. But the music today is atrocious. The music today, they're calling themselves the B word. The girl is calling herself, I'm a bad B, and on the radio, they're saying it and so forth. So uh, Flair was saying the parents need to take more control, but I don't know if it's too late. You think it's too late for the yeah, Leave It to Beaver was another one. Deborah Reevy said that were family shows. So anyway, I want to show you a video of a little boy who is a healthy young boy. We're doing this thing about emotionally healthy in our class for community life groups at church. But I think the big thing about it is that our children are not emotionally healthy. And so let's look at this clip rather, and see if we can kind of get some other things that might help us understand because we got to get back on the right track. And maybe this will help us. Let's go ahead and listen to this, and then we'll come on with our special guest. Okay.
I just came from the park, and it's this kid teasing me because I have feelers on. Now, mind you, I am not a material person. I just wear feelers because, you know, I like the color, and I think they're cool. They might not be what's popular today, but, you know, that's what I like. So, you know, I told the kid, it's not about what I have on my feet, it's about what I have inside my head. No matter what I'm wearing, no matter what I have on, it's about my information, the knowledgeable things in life. These sneakers are not even going to fit you in 20 years from now. So it's about what you have in your mind, your wisdom, your knowledge, the power to inspire others. And parents, please don't raise your children like the materialistic type, because, you know, once they don't have Jordans on or cool clothes, they're going to feel like they're not important. They're going to feel like they need the golden or the Jordans or the cool stuff, the popular stuff to make them feel.
Well, who's the guy who beat you?
Uh-oh. Did it cut off? Okay, I think we were almost at the end anyway, but I think you get the gist here, and I guess it's going to help us understand it a whole lot better. We're trying to figure out what's going on. What happened to our kids? Are we loving our Black kids to life? Are we loving them to death? So our guest is going to come on. Ms. Tiffany, would you come on, please? And
hello.
Hi, Tiffany. Welcome.
Hi, how you doing, Lady O?
Good to see you. Listen, we need you. We need to know what's going on. We're wanting to love our Black kids, and are we loving them too much? Are we loving them the wrong way? Help us, give us some thoughts here about what do you see is going on with loving our boys and loving our girls. Uh-oh, I think she froze. She may come back on in a minute. Tiffany, you're frozen.
Parents are loving their children with fear today.
Okay.
It's fun.
Okay, you're freezing. I don't know if you have moved, but you need to get closer to your Wi-Fi. If you can get closer.
I'm here.
Okay, there you go. I can hear you now. Go ahead.
You can hear me okay? I beg your pardon. I was saying that a lot of parents today are loving their children with fear.
Fear.
With fear. So the media feeds you what you eat. And today we are being revealed by media representation that Black boys will not grow to be Black men. And this is depicted on movies, on music videos, and news. And so I can only empathize with a mother or a father who would snatch him up and want him to behave a certain way as not to draw attention or to cause a problem. It's the same for their daughters, you know, to not want her to be in the system or be systemized by, you know, stigmas that have been presented for them. And honestly, you know, we've all heard that fear is false evidence appearing real. So I encourage every parent, everyone who is looking to become a parent, to acknowledge what is a parent. Fear is false evidence appearing real. And if you are consuming information that makes you feel fear, you should consider not eating that. When you stand on the word, you stand on the promise of God, you know that all things work in accordance to God's will, then you can stand in conviction knowing that even these instances have been called to be an experience or witness. As a woman who was not siblings, I do not have the experience of if it was fair or if it was equal, but I know that I was treated as though I could do anything. And I do have that audacity in every room I walk in. And at the same time, when I sit with other people's children, I empower them to do the same. But any parent that, you know, finds themselves feeling like a human today, you know, completely suffocated from the pandemic and all of the ways in which COVID-19 or work or life or death or grief has affected them, breathe. You know, we take a deep breath and we acknowledge the breath of life in our body and we acknowledge the grace of God, and then we can act in accordance of the will of God with the intention of doing good things. You know, some parents, like, you know, one mother said, you know, I what I felt. You should trust those instincts, because when you have maternal or paternal instincts, you know with the greatest intention, you are going to equip them with what you know is of value: faith, courage, and wisdom. The strengthening process is so powerful because you cannot stop scraping their tail on concrete. You cannot stop your child from getting a paper, stop your child from injuring themselves, but you can them with how to get back up.
Wow.
The resilience
Let me
of
stop
Black
you here for a
parents
minute.
is so strong and encouraging. We should just celebrate our.
Yeah. Let me stop you there for a minute, because you said a mouthful. You said quite a bit, and the first word came out was like a really a bomb. It's like, whoa, what is that? You said fear, and I immediately thought, like, we're raising our children with fear. And so is that why we talk to them different? We love them different. We allow them to do different things because we want to give them the world, but we're fearful in the back of our mind that they're going to not act appropriately. Or they're not going to look appropriate. Like if they don't dress right, they're going to be made fun of, or they're not going to be accepted into the different races, or the police is going to single them out. So wow, we're all operating and raising kids out of fear. Fear for the fact that we want them to make it. We want them to have the best. And we're fearing if we don't, they won't be ready for the world. Wow. So, so how do we go ahead?
There's fear of failure.
A fear of failure.
Lady O, they don't want to get scared. But in all honesty, it's not the worry that we're saying, right? We should not fear a child is going to be like Martin Luther King or like George Floyd or Breonna Taylor. We should embrace the faith that our children will be who God called them to be, and we're just going to support the process.
Well, you know what? You're absolutely right. But I think that coming from where I came from, it's almost hard to not have that fear, because all of our heroes, the Martin Luther Kings and all those people, they died before they were 4. They were died in their 30s. These were our heroes. And even when we look back in slavery, all these people, the stuff that they had to face. Go ahead.
So did Jesus.
Oh, say again?
No, that right there, that's the point. That's the point. We judged how long they lived as if it wasn't long enough. We see you, the elders of the church, the people of the community, the griots who tell the truth, and we celebrate their lives, that they're here. They get to be here to present us with the gift of life, of knowledge, of wisdom. But the ones who didn't live long, their lives were still purposeful. Martin Luther King lived to be the age he lived to be, but he is still alive as we speak of him today in 2022. So we have to literally just allow the garden to bloom. You don't get to choose what happens when the seed is planted. You just have intentions of the harvest. You have a vision, you speak life into existence, and you watch it grow and come itself and then carry on. The same thing. It's amazing the cycle of life. You know, if you get to experience generations of life, it's amazing to see a great grandmother see her great grandchild, you know, and the connection that they have, because she can give them everything she has in that moment. Elsewhere, you know, at the hand of those who remember the stories or who can pass on the information. But when I say too many parents are raising their children in fear, I'm not saying all don't happen, but you're not activating your mind and your work together to truly talk about what you're going to do. And that's the process. Like, fearlessly raise them.
Okay.
Intentionally give them what you want them to have, and they'll do it as they're supposed to.
Wow. Well, let me just, number one, you're still choppy, so I'm really kind of straining it to hear you. So I don't know if you need to get a little closer to your internet, or if backstage, make sure everybody else is muted.
I wish I would have recorded this, because they're missing it.
And some people say they're missing points because it's choppy. And typically that's because the internet is not strong enough. So we just tell people to make sure they move closer to the internet and then just speak slowly. Does anybody else have any suggestions? But I just want to, so while she's yeah, I'm sorry. Well, here was, oh, Miss Reeves here, sixth great
We
grandchild was
recommended
born
that
last
be on
night.
the thing.
Congratulations. Well, listen, let's see if Pastor Johnny, if anybody can help her get the sound. She says she's going to log out and come back. That might help. Yeah, if you, Tracy, if you could log out and come back, it might be a better connection because it's really, really rough. And I know you have some really great things that you're saying, but I cannot. And the guests are saying too, they cannot understand it. So maybe log out, get closer to your internet, and come back in. So let's talk about this. What she just said, because that shocked me. I think we're loving our kids too much, but the reason we're loving them the way we love them is because of fear.
Yeah, that was a mouthful.
What do you
And
think
it was
about that?
something to really consider. Um, we have to examine ourselves in light of that. Examine what we say to them in light of this fear. I've never thought about that.
I didn't
I don't
either.
know when
I was shocked when she said, "I said fear. I'm not afraid." But we
Mhm.
are raising them. The reason we talk to them a certain way because we want to make sure that he doesn't grow up to be wimpy or he doesn't grow up to let a woman run over him. You
Right.
know, that he's not afraid he can get on a job and be assured of himself. But
Mm-hmm.
all of those things are things we're doing for them is because of fear. And like the little boy said, we're buying them all these designer clothes and shoes and things like that because we're afraid that they won't be accepted.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, there she is back. Tiffany, let's see.
Can you hear
Talk.
me okay now?
That is
Is this
much
better?
better. Yes.
See, I was
Okay.
afraid to use my cell phone, but this is a lot easier for me. So, okay, I
Good.
apologize. I figured whatever words you didn't catch, it just was supposed to be missed. But
Right.
but yeah, sometimes we hear a word and we stop listening. Remember this summer when I came to the church and I talked about meditation, and some people didn't even acknowledge, 26 verses. We talk about meditation, the process of thinking on something for a period of time. And so, if I might have triggered anybody, with the word fear, receive it with love this time.
Mhm.
Fearlessly love your children. Fearlessly give them what you find to be of value, even if it's quality time. A lot of times parents think, I got to go to work and I got to, work all these jobs and I have to provide for my family, but you're not even present for your family. And that's what's aching hearts. We want you at the table. Not all families experience two parental units at the table. Not all families experience two genders in the household of children to raise. But if you have a seed that you have planted, won't you enjoy the harvest? And the concept of thinking about what we go without, fear is not always identified because anxiety can attack our spirit to the point that we fail to acknowledge what is keeping us from us. But when you truly acknowledge a reflection of, am I operating in faith or fear? You might be a little more remiss to the fact that you have not been effectively operating in faith the entire time. There's no need to worry about that. You just move forward with intention. With faith, I desire to have a fruitful family. With faith, I desire to have sons and daughters who are going to carry out the message of God and spread the gospel because it's what we're supposed to do. And at the same time, we give thanks for these moments, these incredible women who have raised babies, who have been among beautiful stages of life. And y'all can give us what we need to do that, what they need to do that. I know one of you said, how do we do this? How is it too late? No, Lady O, it's on time
All
because
right.
now it's come to light. Now it's come to your mind, to your heart to do it. And authentically, we reveal opportunities for people to stop doing it the wrong way and to get on the track and continue on the path of light, of love, and of what God has called us to do faithfully.
Okay, let me get some points here because the first thing I wrote down, and I'm just writing down as I'm hearing you, is just so wonderful what you're saying. I just have to kind of catch up. But the one thing I was hearing in my spirit was that we have a seed, okay? And you said we need to stop working so much time trying to provide for the seed and give them us
Yes.
our time,
Yes.
to be at the dinner table, whether it's at on a TV tray or at the bar stool, but you're sitting there with that child. You're not handing them a happy meal and say, "Be happy, I'll provide it for you." But you're putting that time into them, which gives them security,
Yes.
and that takes away the fear of whatever's going on in this world.
Yes.
So the first one I wrote down was time. that we need to stop giving our time away to the world and intentionally give some strategic time to our children. Can you speak on that?
No, of course. So, for those of you who remember when I was teaching about taking a deep breath, the
Mhm.
algorithm I like to use is 3 and 7, because in 1 minute, in 60 seconds, you can take 6 deep breaths. 3
Mhm.
inhales of 3 seconds. I'm sorry, 6 inhales of 3 seconds and 6 exhales of 7 seconds. And in those
Mhm.
60 seconds, you have changed the trajectory of your experience. I
Mhm.
encourage you to do this before you leave your home. I encourage you to do it while you're in traffic, while you're at work, while you're in class, while you're doing what's needed to get through your day. But taking a moment to breathe in deeply,
Right.
10 seconds, literally
You
change
do
it.
that with our children?
This works for children. This works with babies
Oh.
because like I know Tracy. After I met her this summer, I'm now a vendor at her school, and a lot of the children who have experienced abuse, frustration, stress, bullying, they just need somebody to show them how to take a deep breath and release in a safe space,
Wow.
in a
Wow.
way that is effective and conducive, because anger is secondary, y'all. We get so offended, we get so hurt, we get so disappointed, and instead of acknowledging our feelings, we run to anger because we know how to express that by screaming, by yelling, by hitting, by silencing ourselves, by hurting ourselves, by quieting our spirits. But
Wow.
it's the breathing that we connect with God, that we allow God to be God, and we are just beings of God that get to experience life. It is the most beautiful thing to watch a child breathe, to watch a child be, and then to give them a microphone, to give them the opportunity to use their throat and to let the words flow. It is the most brilliant thing that you can imagine. And too often parents keep children in children's places unaware they are becoming themselves. And so instead of asking a child what's wrong, say, hey, tell me something good. What do you look forward to today? What intentions are you laying? How are we going to join and be in agreement that God will walk with you wherever you may go? And this is how, you discipline, because disciples are disciplined, and we have to give them what they need, because yes, it takes a village. It takes all of us to contribute. But whether it's a child or a parent, a grandparent, everybody needs to take a deep breath and be graceful with themselves.
Teach us how to do that. Okay, so what I would like for you to do, because I'm sitting here thinking as you're talking, when we get our kids ready to go to school in the morning, a lot of times we're already gone and they have to get themselves off or whatever. Everybody's rushing. You got your backpack, you got your lunch money, go. Have a good day, be good. And that's kind of the gist of how we get them going. But what would it be like, or how long would it take just to have a breathing thing with our children to settle them and teach them how to breathe? Or should we do it at nighttime?
All day.
All day. So we
All
teach
day.
the breathing technique and they can do it anytime they get angry or frustrated. They're talking about Black children, how we have a high rate of discipline acts to the principal's office and counselor's office. So maybe this will be something good for us to teach our own children how
Yes.
to go to the restroom or get in a corner and just breathe. So tell us what we need to do.
So 1 minute. That's all
One
you
minute.
need. 1 minute.
Okay.
And I mean, I get it. Families have different schedules. They have different priorities, different expectations, different things on a list that they're trying to check off and be effective. All
Mhm.
you need is 60 seconds.
60
And if
seconds.
you're traveling, if you're not in the room, you can get on the phone and do a FaceTime or a duo. You can record a video. You can play it every day. But whatever your process is, do it. You can text them 3 and 7. And in that moment, you are saying, I'm here with you. I'm breathing with you. I'm thinking of you. I love you. But the
Wow.
concept is to quiet your spirit. So when I
Right.
count you into this deep breath, I count while you're exhaling the breath in your body. I tell
Okay.
you to take a deep breath in for an inhale of 3 seconds. And you pause for a moment and you acknowledge, I am still here. God is still breathing life into me. I'm so grateful. This matter at hand is not in my hands. It's not mine to carry. It's not my burden to bear. And I'm slowly exhaling it, allowing my strength to return, my awareness to come back, and me to know I'm doing what I'm supposed to. 1,
Mm.
2, 3. Take a deep breath in and slowly exhale. 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 We must not suffocate ourselves trying to be of service to our family, to our spouses, to our children. We must put ourselves first as parents, as people, as leaders, as teachers, as humans, as beings of bodies of Christ. We must breathe first before we can exhale. So inhale deeply and give yourself grace and space to show your children how you get through things, not by holding your breath, not by drinking or by smoking or by consuming or overindulging, but by breathing. Because as long as you're breathing, you'll get through anything.
That's good. That's real good. So we could do this, and you see, it didn't take very long. But I'm writing down here a couple of things too. We could do. We could even record it on our child's phone and text it to them, so they can always click in. Mom, have mom with them all the time when I need to have this breathing thing, and hear her voice, very
Yes.
calming me down and
Because
telling me to breathe.
Lady O, think of your grandmother.
Yes.
Can you hear her voice? Can you hear her washing greens in the kitchen and humming, singing to the food that she's making a feast for her family? Those things are how you let your
Mhm.
love know you love them. Because
Mm.
after our days here have transitioned to days with God, we can
Mhm.
still leave behind legacies, messages, directions, recipes, Tracy. And
Mm.
so there's so many ways that we can not worry about if we're going to live long enough to hold our grandbabies, but we live now and we can speak life into them for them to experience life the way we've spoken intentionally.
Wow. Wow, this is amazing. Okay, so this is what I'm thinking. I'm always thinking as I'm hearing, and I'm asking God to reveal to me something that will always, make us better, give us something, a next level to do. So if we were to make a videotape, just like a 60-second love. So we're talking about Black history and loving our children. And so if we could do that and give that as a gift to our children for Valentine's Day, which could be any day. I love
Yes.
it. And they could have it with them all the time. To even if they've got earbuds, they can put that on so nobody will know that your mom's counting your breathings or whatever with you, for our teenagers and whatever. But I know my mom has gone on, but just her voice was always calming to me.
Yes.
It was always what I needed if I was down. And
Whew.
so we have to learn how to do that into our children. This helps them to breathe so that they can't exhale all of the negative. Because isn't that what the exhaling is letting go of all of the
It's
anger?
it's 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 the filtration, Lady O. So when you have an experience of frustration and you you emit hot air, you emit the negativity, you put it out there, and sometimes you exchange that energy because someone else is inhaling and they take in that heat. But when you slowly exhale, the breath
Mhm.
is just as cool coming out as it was going in, and so it's like you're consciously allowing your body to be a filter. You're not being a dump truck.
Wow, wow. You know what else I just heard in the spirit, that control, that you're controlling it is not controlling you. Because when you go like, you're really not control. It just came out. But
Mm-hmm.
when you got it in you and you slowly control letting out. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes when I'm letting stuff out, I'll just stop and hold it for a minute and go slower and
Mm-hmm.
slower. You have
Yes.
that control. And our children, I think a lot of times why they're so angry and so while they're doing some of the things they're doing is they have no hope, no control, and they're just handling with what they know.
Yes.
And then where are they learning this from what they know? They're learning from us as we discipline them, which is the spanking and the yelling and throwing things and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And some parents are just loud, Lady O. Some fathers, some mothers, they get excited or
Mhm.
anxious or triggered. Some are just loud. But be mindful because before you respond, if you would breathe, your words will come in a way of intention as opposed to frustration. It's
Mm,
one thing to see a child run across the street and immediately fear comes and you think, what if this would have happened differently? But
yeah.
breathe. This is an opportunity to acknowledge a learning space.
Mm,
We don't want you to cross the street without holding our hand because sometimes your vision is skewed and you don't see the view that we do.
mm-hmm.
Look left and right. Be aware
Right.
of your surroundings as opposed to get your butt over here. Don't you ever do that again. Scaring me. Like, it's a different experience
Right.
because a child will not know what was wrong or how to do it right. They'll just associate wrong with yelling and always think if a voice is raised, they've done something wrong. And then they go in
Wow.
these rabbit holes of I'm always doing something wrong. They're always yelling as opposed to my teacher, my parent, my village. They've raised me to be aware of my surroundings. I pay attention. I don't have to put the bill for ignorance. I'm equipped.
Wow. Wow. That's really powerful there because as we raise our Black children, like I said, we raise them based upon what we were raised and what we knew. And in each generation, we learned something better. We did it better. And we have to forgive ourselves for stuff we didn't know. But can you give
Wow.
any advice? Because what we're looking at today is should we be raising our boys differently than our girls? And with that in with this in mind, that our boys, a lot of them are a little bit more in danger for being shot and killed and driving and walking and jogging, and that's what you're seeing in the news. So we want them to be safe. So how can we make sure that they are safe? Uh, and
Getting on your knees.
Okay.
See, the issue with prayer for some people, Lady O, they've not been taught how to pray. Some people stay in prayer with worry. Oh God, I hope this gonna happen. Oh Lord, what if that don't happen? Oh Lord, I wish you would give me some patience. Lord, get this kid right. Let him listen, as opposed to thank you, God, for equipping my child with tools to use to apply in life so that they don't face strife with fear. Thank you, God, that my hand is always offered in love when I embrace them. And if my hand may be raised in discipline, it is still at the extension of power and purpose, not frustration and anger. You thank God. You effectively, actively
Mm,
activate your words in a powerful way, but you stay in prayer. When your child leaves your house and you are no longer in control, you weren't in control at home either. But acknowledge that sight is still a vision you can have. And with all of God's might, you say, thank you, God, that from here on out, my child is walking in grace and mercy. My child is covered by light. My child is covered by the promise that you will see
wow.
them through this life. Like, we have to be mindful of our words because when you said, we raise our children the way we were raised and what we experienced, it was
Mm-hmm.
more so our perspective. Hearing
Mm-hmm.
someone say, I'm only doing this because I love you, for some became recipients of abuse because they loved them. Some people were told, listen to your elders and do what you're told, and they were subjected to abuse because they were told to do things and they thought they were being compliant and obedient. We have to be mindful with our words. Our
Wow.
perception at I'm 37, your perception at 28, your perception at 75, we're all different. But if you're intentional with your words, communication works when you wait on a response of confirmation that they receive what the word was. Every time Pastor pulls the book out and gives a scripture to reference, the word is applicable no matter what the day, no matter what the frame of mind or the ways that you're coping in life, the word is still going to apply. It's whether or not you are open to receive it. But the way
Wow.
that you do this effectively is by having intention. And if you don't know what to do, just be quiet and listen.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Just be quiet rather than saying the wrong thing. And another thing too, I want to just kind of ask you this, because what I'm hearing is we do need to be in the word ourselves. And I think that's
Yeah.
the big problem is that we have a generation that did not grow up in the word. They grew up in church, but not in the word and having Christ inside of them, as opposed to say, I'm a Christian, but your actions are not like Christ. So
Yes,
I think
ma'am.
that training too, but I think also it would be good if do you know if there a book or something of affirmations for children? I'm sure they are, but do you know of anyone that?
There really are. There are so many, but none come to mind outside of the ones that you could write.
Oh,
Too often parents look for something else to supply or substitute what they already have. There is no word greater than the one that comes from those whose voice is heard. If you were to write a book to your grandchildren, to your
Mhm.
sixth great grandchild, to your
Right.
son today, you can literally get a journal and a pen and write, "Today is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Whether you see me or not, know I see you. I stand with you. I believe in you. And today I want you to speak with me. I am wonderfully made. And by the stripes I am healed." Like, you can write this book. I'll publish
Okay.
it.
Okay. I felt like you were going to say that, and I agree with you. I think sometimes we want to get lazy, and like you said, somebody else's words are not your words. You got your own words, but I kind of would like to give people kind of a structure that
So
to
one book I would say for reference, We Go On by John Onwuchekwa. I'll send you the spelling of his last name, but the book is called We Go On. I
Okay.
went to school with him. He lives in Atlanta. This book takes Ecclesiastes and things that he faced as a man, and how he embraced parenthood, being a spouse, dealing with grief. It's very unapologetic. I recommend um, Miracle the Poet. She has a book on self-love. It is applicable to a parent. She actually just celebrated her second year of sobriety and has experienced life after grief with the word. But the unapologetic authenticity of everybody. I mean, I know quite a few people that have written quite a few books. I will send you a list of them. But in
Okay.
all honesty, there's no word greater than your own.
Than your own. And so I would encourage every parent on here, including myself as grandparents. And we talked about this really at the beginning of the year. Remember, ladies, we said we were going to write a little book to every one of our children. And so let's do that. And if you can't do a book, at least write a little letter of affirmation in your own words. And pretty much sounds like what you're saying on your affirmation, things to include in there would be acknowledging who they are, how great they are, God, and saying they can move the mountains and those kind of things. And
Yes.
I'm with you. Would you say those are kind of the pieces that need to be in that affirmation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we can do that. I mean, it doesn't, I think we said book at first. Maybe we think about it. That takes a lot to write a book, but to write a little
But it
love,
we can make a video.
the video, there you go. We got to make that video.
Can keep up with them today, right? Like they got a short attention span. They need about 15 seconds to a minute. No problem. Give them 60 seconds. Because while they're breathing in deeply, listening to your words, they're
Mhm,
seeing, they're hearing, they're encompassing all that you put together.
mhm.
Yes, do a 60-second video.
Yes, yes. And and I just heard something too, because I'm gonna put this in mind. Y'all can put it if you want to use it, but my heart beats for you.
Yes.
Listen to the beat of my heart, the rhythm of my
Yes.
heart. That's speaking
Yes,
that feel my breath, as I breathe out
man.
my
Lady
love.
O, if you have never experienced the drumming circle, it's the most incredible ways to feel the heartbeat of people who are no longer walking next to you.
Wow.
Because I know no matter how long it's been since your mother has been gone, if you
Right.
were to sit in a room with drumming, you'll feel her heartbeat against your skin like you did the last time you loved her. I promise it is the most powerful. Music is so powerful. And you know what really sticks out is that movie Footloose. Back in the
Mhm.
day, they made it seem like music was so bad. Even a conversation I came in on, y'all were talking about how music today is atrocious. They say the most negative things, but people listen to music.
Yes,
So when
they
you
do.
put some tunes behind it, make it a song of love. Because if we run from what we fear and not embrace the opportunity to speak in that language, that space that it will be heard and felt, we miss an opportunity to connect. The
Wow.
music is so powerful, so necessary. And
Woo.
I encourage you to do that. Like, I mean, we could go to the studio, I can coach you through it. I'll help you translate your feelings. But I recommend it because if the question is how do we raise our children, with art, raise them with art, with your whole heart,
Wow.
with him and art. The creativity and the creator are the only ways that you can give children the space and capacity to be themselves. Because people don't pay enough at regular jobs. And while some generations thought that you know having security, having insurance, having a pension mean you had some stability. No. Having a microphone, a paintbrush, a crayon, and a space to dance. That's how you stabilize somebody's emotions and put them in a position to get through life. All right.
Wow.
Raise them with me. Call me. I'll help.
I'm gonna do that because you have just really like I just was thrown with this word fear. I'm like, what does that mean? And you've opened up a whole different door for me in that, in raising children and loving children. And that's what this
Yes,
is all
ma'am.
about. You've given us some great things to love our children. So it really has been an amazing show. Too short. It's time for us to go. But I want to thank you so much for pouring into us, and we'll get together and get some other things because we just can't stop with this, because this is a level I hadn't ventured into the fear part of what we do, how we speak, how we react. That's the why. And we always talk about if you find the why to everything, everything falls into place. So now we know the why of why we're doing these things, why we're loving our kids this way. Now we got some other things to tell us how we can do it a little bit differently to make them become the person that God called them to be, and we speak it to be so. Well, listen,
Yes, ma'am.
that's all for now. Let's thank Tiffany for coming and sharing with us, and we'll have to have her back. And we got the conference coming up, so we'll get together. But get out your phones and start that video, okay? And I want to know who did it because I want to see it. All right. Thank you all so much today. It has been wonderful on Tea Talk with Lady O. Pass on the word to somebody else. They need to know this because you learn something new every time you come on Tea Talk. So thank you for coming. I'll see you next week. We have a wonderful show for you then. And go out and love someone now that you know how to do it. Love your kids in a new way. Goodbye for now.